Welcome back. This is part 8 of my $700 Volvo XC90 overhaul series. In this video, we're going to be replacing the blower motor. So here we have the new blower motor and housing, and this is the new resistor. And I was like, oh, I'll get started ahead of time. I'll install this in here. And, well, it turns out you can't because neither of these ships with the screws that are required to mount the resistor to the housing. So, instead of getting ahead and doing this ahead of time, I actually have to take the current one out of the car, disassemble that, pull the screws out, and then reassemble this together, and then put it back in. So, just so you know, you kind of got to take it apart to repair it in the first place. Not a big deal. Alright, so as we get started, we're going to be working on removing Glovebox, this panel, and then we'll be working up there. So let's get to it. So to get started, we're going to need a T25 Torx bit, and we're going to work down here. Let's unscrew that. Inside the glove box itself, we have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Top left, 2 in the center part, 1 on the right, bottom right, and then the bottom left, and then 3 more below. As you can see, still haven't cleaned out this car. I haven't really been using it because it's, I just finished doing the engine work and I still have to do the hub on the rear. So these are rounded, and then the ones that came off on the outside have the washers. Once this is unscrewed, grab it by the light, just pull down, and it's actually tucked behind here, but we are removing this panel as well, and this is also just similar to this, just some clips. So, well, that comes out, and then you can see it's just got some clips like this, and there should be a couple more. Let me get a tool for that. There we go. So you don't want to break the center console. Okay, so then once that's out, you can pull this out of the way. Just put it over here. And this will slide forward and out. Just put that over there as well. And that gives us some access down here. There are 2 more screws. One here and one here. You can grab this little opening here, so you can pull that, drop it out, and then you have a connector on the back over here, so you can push down on the little tab, we'll slide that out, and then we'll take this and put it somewhere else. Alright, let's see, blower motor is here. This is gonna have to be pulled back a little. We're gonna have to undo all the screws. So let's take a look. So the connectors are towards the front. Oh, towards the inside of the car. So that means this piece right here, the opening for the resistor, or here we have our two connectors, this one connecting inside, this one on the outside. Alright, so we have this 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And some people say, oh, you should just break the one you can't reach. We're not going to do that. Apparently, the best way is to start with the one that is the furthest. Now, well, I guess first it's going to be disconnect this. That makes the most sense. So push tab here. Okay, now the first bolt first screw or blower motor we're gonna remove is the one that is the hardest to remove. And to do that, you can undo these two, which are 8mm. Use my little ratchet and wrench. And the idea is if we push this out of place, it will free up some space. And here we can use a flathead screwdriver to move the housing out of place to move it forward. Apparently you can shift it over so it stays out of the way, but I also don't want to damage anything. Oh, okay, maybe. Now I want to break it. We'll see from there. Here I'm locating where all the screws that mount the blower motor in are. Yeah, so here I'm going to cut this zip tie because one of the screws is right behind it. There's one here, there's one right around here, and there's one further back. I'm still trying to identify where everything is. Let's you move this harness out of it. It's pretty weighted in there, huh? Might not be able to get this out of there until later. Okay. Where's the last one? Number 5, the one that's hard to get. So I've been able to spot this one, this one, this one, and I think this one. But it looks like this is the one I have to look for. This one was blocked by the zip tie. So this is where we're going. I think this is the one people say, oh, just break it off. No. Okay. Put this back in this box. Close the door. And the bird's playing squeaky toy. He doesn't have a squeaky toy, he's just making the sound. Okay. Arguably, you could probably break it off to remove it and then figure out. Okay. I think what's gonna have to happen is this is the soundproofing we're dealing with, so we're gonna have to cut some of this further back there. So this is the screw that's accessible, and a little further behind it is the one we can't reach yet. So to create a little more access in here, what we did here was push with the screwdriver while holding the housing and pulling it forward. That way it kind of rests here on the tab, and that should give it a little bit more access down here. Maybe I'll be able to spot it. So I'll keep going. Let's see. Okay. I can only go so far. So what I'm going to try to do is use these wobble sockets and a 1/4 inch socket to drive the 225 back there once I've cleared up some access. Which is likely. How am I supposed to do this? Okay, I'll be back. Okay, so initially I was going to try to follow a guide I found that says, you know, pull it forward, cut the foam out, unscrew the screw, but there's no access for there. So right now the plan is to unscrew the 4 accessible bolts or screws and then break the last tab off, take out the blower motor, have access to where that screw is, cut out the foam around it, and then when reinstalling we'll actually put that screw in as well as all the others. So hopefully that'll work. Alright, let's see. Use a mirror to try to line things up. Or you can lay in the footwell, but this isn't long enough. Okay. Not really what you're supposed to do, but this is this drill attachment, because otherwise the handle of the screwdriver is bumping into some of the plastic, so I can't ratchet. Okay, now you have to fold this back so that apparently that way it will clear, otherwise it won't. Of course. Disconnect the hose that connects there. That's down on the side here. Now that that's partially down, I think I can reach with the screwdriver back there. Here I'm using a screwdriver for leverage to break the tab on the first screw. I think it's just catching on the foam on the back over here. So to turn it slightly to the right to clear the foam, and then we have to push this carpet out of the way. So now we're gonna break and take this apart, get the screws and out the resistor. Now, after that, we're going to see all this. The screw that we couldn't access is back here. So we're going to cut out this foam. I was trying to pry at it with a screwdriver beforehand, but that did not work. So we'll clear this up, access that, and in the worst case, we'll just reinstall it with only the 4 screws. So now it's removed, we can really see this whole area is where it caught while we're trying to remove it, and this is where the 5th screw is. So what I'm going to do before even trying to put the new one in is cut this foam out. That should allow us to, you know, gain some access to this and prevent the new blower motor from catching while we're putting it back in. Now, be really careful not to cut any wires because it would So about this job, Volvo says to remove the dash to do it, and I kind of understand because this isn't really designed to be removed this way. And so, you know, it's the foam. I get it, but you know, most people don't want to pay for hours and hours of labor at the dealership. So this is you know, fairly acceptable solution, honestly. Alright. There's no way. There's no way. So, I've been pushing down on this to release the pin here to be able to pull it forward, but that's really not giving me the movement I need to get that screw out because it's behind the curve of the chassis, or the body, I guess. So, you know, after some deliberation, and because I'm not comfortable pulling this harder, I don't want to break anything in this fan housing. I don't want to break anything in here. I've decided that I will not be removing that screw, and I'm going to follow the, you know, what a lot of people have done, and just break the tab on the new one and slide it in. Yeah, I mean, you know, as much as I usually like to try to do things right, in this case, I don't think it's worth the trouble. I do think that having cut out the foam here will help because we saw all those scratch marks. But as I'm trying to put the new one in, if things, you know, if it gets stuck or something, I can cut more out. So while I was removing this from the car, the cover here ended up snapping off, unfortunately, but it does sit on it like so. It's just this piece snapped. The other parts just clip in, so there's, I guess, 1 or 2 clips. Now to remove the motor, still 225. And then, so what we can do, get a flathead screwdriver and wedge it between the housing and the motor itself. And we're probably going to want to pull this out first. There's a little tab on the top side here. I'm not reusing any of this, but since this connects to the motor, probably want to make sure that we can, you know, have it free as it slides out. So put this back in. Up. Ow! Ooh. Watch out, don't cut yourself with the motor aside. If you have any projects, maybe you can use it. And we got 1, 2, I guess just 2. Still T25. Keep these safe. Okay, I don't need to take this one out, but just for reference. Oh yeah, okay. So you would do it. If you do need to remove it, I ended up prying here and then pushing on the back. Yeah, I don't need to remove this, but. And this one works, so technically I could reuse it, but ow. Ooh, those blades are sharp. Now, let's get our new motor right here. We're gonna carefully remove this cover. Okay, so pushing from this side, I was able to just pop it off. We do have to remove the motor. Oh, okay. Well, thanks for nothing. I have to get a different screwdriver. Now for this one, I need a Phillips. It's not too tight at least. I think it's more of a locator type screw. Oh, there's blue Loctite on there. Okay. So it doesn't twist inside the housing. Pull those to washers. And the reason there's a difference is likely because, you know, different brands. You can get the bare part. It's BEHR, not BEAR. Just kind of wiggle this. Push it up. Actually, yeah, we're gonna just take this all the way out. Okay, let's get our new part here. Yeah, there's 2 screws. So, okay. Just snug. This isn't really going anywhere. Okay, now we are putting the connector out through here because it's going to run in this groove to this slot port. So I'm going to line this up. And it's because of the way it's designed, the raised part here will fit into that groove. Actually, that's the only way it'll fit, so. Woo! Finger. Okay. Now that is in. We can get our little Phillips guys back in. Always make sure you use the right size screwdriver because if it's too small, if you slip, you might end up stripping the screw and then you're stuck. Pop that in there, drop this down. Okay, now our replacement part here. This is going to cover the wires here. And so where that tab connects is just under this screw holder. So if you push this over, it should come out. But I want to make sure it's seated properly. This is where we'll reconnect that hose. And this is the tab that we are getting rid of because it's not realistically accessible. Fortunately, the way it's set up, it's pretty snug in there, so it shouldn't be a problem. You get a little something to cut this and a file to smooth it out. I kept the box cutter just in case, but okay, this is towards the front of the car. This is the one we can access, this is the one we can't. As a result, I'm going to use these cutters. Don't use a box cutter to do this, it's not safe. This is dangerous, don't do this. Okay. It should be ready to go in. Alright. This is just out of the way. That out of the way. It's gonna come down a bit. And go for it. So, remember the connector goes to the front. So we're coming in this direction. We're gonna push this down as much as I can. I'm gonna actually wrap this around this foam guy. Nope, that is the part. Figure out how to hold this out of the way while I'm getting this in. So I don't want to damage this. The other one, you know, was a. I had this whole thing to replace it with, but this one, I don't have anything to replace it with if it doesn't build up. You have to pull this further. The issue I had is that this foam here was catching on the lip on the back, so For this part, I ended up removing the blower motor cover to make it easier. So what I did here to gain better access was to pop the tabs out on the trim. There's one tab here, and then 2 others along the bottom, and that'll give you better access to pull the carpet out of the way. Okay, so there's little, oops, I don't know if you can see, but there are a couple guides here, and the housing has to go around it. Here I'm installing the front left screw, and be sure to leave them all a little loose as you go until they're all in place. That way you can shift the blower motor assembly to line them up more easily. Now with that on, you can put this cover on. So you're going to want to loosen the front left screw a little bit while you're installing the cover to make it easier. So right now what I'm trying to do is reattach the cover, but it's catching on something. So I'm going to take a look at my other one. There's 2 clips. The one that goes around the screw thingy, the other one that clips in. Oh, back there. Okay. Back here. There we go. Okay, so you can kind of see it. Kind of see it here. The little snout thing. What happens is this piece has like a groove in it, and there's a plastic part on here that has to go in that groove. So you got to line that up, and then you have the little arm thing here that has to go above the black part here, and then there's a little clip. Tab here, tab in the back, and once everything's lined up, it'll hold in place. Don't forget there's a little hook that goes behind one of the screw tabs. This little hook right here. So that's when the plastic is in this groove, it'll work well, and this will also catch it. Okay, I think that means I can tighten things up, finally, for the last time. And then there's one last one as part of that cover. Oh, I forgot. I need the actual screw. Do not fall out right here. Come on. Now, the last step is reconnect things. So we are in this hose, reaching behind this. That's good. Then we gotta get this guy. And that's in. Okay, and with that done, next step is to push this back in place. Where is... Okay. Put the glove box back in, and don't forget we've got this little guy connect to the top. Now if you remember, we moved those 8mm screws here, so we have to put these back in. You don't really need to take these off if you're following the method I ended up using. So what's nice is with the way it's designed, there's like hooks here and here that will hold it in place. So while you're reassembling it, you can actually not have to hold it in place anymore. And if you do bottom 3, I should probably test this before I go any further. I realized I forgot to run it before to show you what it sounded like. Oh well. Sorry. Okay. Sounds good. So what it used to do is like a little rattle type sound. Oh, that's really good news. That's awesome. Now, let's get this in here. I wish they were threaded, you know? That way you'd know, like, yeah, I am doing it right, instead of cutting new threads into like plastic. Then there's a little guide pins here and here. Oh, that's why. So it turns out you have to put this partially behind there. There we go. And with that snapped in, it actually holds in place. Fabulous. Oh, what a job. Hope this helped you out, and I'll see you next time. In the next video, we'll be changing all the drivetrain fluids. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments, and if you're enjoying the series, consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.